Psychology can be defined as the science, or more precisely, the pseudoscience, that studies the mind and human behavior. It is referred to as a pseudoscience because, despite adopting scientific language and partially experimental methods, most psychological theories do not meet the fundamental criteria that make a discipline scientific. In particular, such theories: 1. Are not falsifiable. 2. Are not reliably replicable. 3. Are often based on arbitrary assumptions that cannot be empirically verified. A paradigmatic example is Freudian psychoanalysis, which interprets dreams, symptoms, and behaviors based on concepts like the unconscious, repression, or the Oedipus complex. Although intuitively persuasive, these constructs are neither directly observable nor measurable, and any possible objection can be reinterpreted through internal rationalizations within the theory itself, rendering the theory unfalsifiable and, as already stated, unscientific. In other words, one could say that the object of study of psychology does not consist of physical quantities, but of metaphysical ones, that is, entities that are not accessible to objective measurement. Emotions, thoughts, beliefs, or mental states cannot be precisely quantified or experimentally isolated, unlike variables in the physical sciences. As a result, establishing causal relationships that are objective, universal, and 100% repeatable is practically impossible, which undermines the claim to rigorous scientific status that some psychological schools continue to assert. In any case, we have spoken of the mind and human behavior. But what exactly do we mean by these two terms? The term mind has no univocal definition. In some contexts, it is understood as the set of cognitive processes occurring within the human brain. These cognitive processes include thought, memory, language, attention, perception, and decision-making. In other contexts, the mind is defined as the seat of subjective experience, emotions, conscious intentions, will. However, all these aspects share one essential feature. They are not directly observable, nor can they be described in strictly quantitative terms. The mind, therefore, is an eminently metaphysical concept. It refers to a set of internal, invisible, and unmeasurable processes about which we can only formulate hypotheses, never objective observations. For example, there is no unit of measurement for a person's courage or sadness. Behavior, on the other hand, consists of observable outward actions such as body movements, spoken words, practical choices, etc. It is on this level that psychology attempts to build a bridge towards scientificity by inferring mental states from behavioral observations. However, this inference is always indirect, uncertain, and highly dependent on the cultural, symbolic, and subjective context in which the behavior manifests. A smile, for instance, may express joy, irony, suppressed anger, or social convention. Thus, while the behavior is visible and objective, the mental meaning we attribute to it remains hypothetical and subjective. As we have seen, unlike the physical sciences, psychology cannot directly observe mental contents in the same way one analyzes physical objects or quantifiable phenomena. In fact, although the brain is accessible to anatomical and neurophysiological analysis, mental processes remain largely invisible. For this reason, the study of human behavior constitutes a privileged path for inferring the workings of the mind. The idea is thus to observe human actions and behaviors, and based on them, to construct and test theoretical models that can explain and predict future behaviors. The definition provided by the American Psychological Association, APA, clearly reflects this approach. Psychology is the study of the mind and human behavior. The discipline encompasses every aspect of human experience, from neural functioning to political choices, from child development to elder care. In every possible context, from research laboratories to clinical services, understanding behavior represents the central goal of psychologists.